All right, guys, Jack Spirko here. I am alone in the kitchen today. Maybe by the time we get toward finishing up today, I'll have someone to help me with the camera work. But wanted to do some stuff at Biltong for breakfast, kind of like the instrumental we did with the acorn squash soup to add additional content. David and I can only get together so often and do full-on insult each other, make fun of each other, and have inappropriate conversation episodes. So we have some kind of adjunct here. I don't know what we would call these segments, maybe instructionals in the kitchen or something like that. But I wanted to talk to you guys today about cooking chicken in sous vide, which we just released our episode on cooking steaks with sous vide, the main thing that's done with sous vide, where this is going to be a little bit different, because basically what we're going to do is, well, it's kind of the same thing, the same but different, man, if you know from Cheech and Chong. This is going to be basically pre-cooking the chicken to a temperature of 165 degrees so we know the chicken's done. And then we're going to finish it either on the grill or the oven. I haven't decided yet. It depends on when the wife gets home and what she wants to do and all. And if we do any sides and what they're going to be. But I have a whole chicken here from Butcher Box that, as you can see, is now two halves of a chicken. And all I did was I took my shears. And these are my favorite shears if you can get them. They're made by Red Yeti Ware. And one of the things I like is I just cut nasty chicken with them when they come apart, so they can be cleaned really well before I cut something else with them. The other thing, though, is they don't come apart till I want them to. A lot of come apart shears, like you're cutting with them and they come apart. This never happened to me. These are actually adjusted right. So cut the backbone out with that. Picked up one of my chef's knives, not the Patrick Rohrman one. This is the Japanese one. I can't remember who makes this, but I really like these knives. Anyway, use this and just split the breast in half. You can cut the breast with the shears. I've just found you get better results if you just kind of push on the heel of your knife and rock through the breast. So that gave me two halves of a chicken. If I wasn't making two different flavors, so to say, I probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably do this chicken whole. I'd probably just go ahead and cut the backbone out and do what's called spatchcock it. That goes beyond this episode, but if you want to learn about spatchcocking a chicken, and it's nothing like it sounds, you can go ahead and just look that up on YouTube, and there's plenty of people to show you how to do that. But basically, it's opening your chicken up so it looks like that and still connected, and removing a piece of the breastbone so it'll cook more evenly. Since we're going to cook this in sous vide, and we're going to know our internal temperature before we ever put it on the grill or broil it or whatever to crisp the skin, we can do it whole, we can do it in parts, it doesn't really matter. We don't have to worry about the wings being overdone, the breast being just right, the thighs being underdone, the joints in here being red like you see with chicken sometimes. This will be a perfect chicken. I think, because I've never done this before, and I think that more people on YouTube doing cooking shows should do stuff they've never done before. Now here's something we have done before at Biltong for breakfast. This is Walker's Wood jerk seasoning. This is the mild version. I am doing two different seasonings because I know if I just do the whole thing in this, my wife's going to get home and roll her eyes at me and go, "It's too hot." Mild version, I'll see if I can get her to try it. But I'll do half in this. And then, let me keep my hands somewhat de-chicken skanked here. I'm going to do the other half in Chef Keith Snow's grilled chicken seasoning. So we'll see how that goes. Let's start out with the Walker's Wood. And as I talked about when we did the wings in the full episode, that if you get into a position where you can get up under the skin, get up under the skin, man. And it would be better if it had time to marinate. But since it's going to be sous vide, that's another thing, man. It kind of speeds up the marinating process. So we'll get some of it shoved up under that skin, and we'll just get it all over the skin. Oh, this is going to be good. Again, Butcher Box, man. I love Butcher Box for a source for meat. This is basically a pastured chicken that came to my house in a box, frozen with a bunch of other goodies. And I just got my notice from Butcher Box that my most recent box has shipped. So maybe we'll do something soon with some, what do you call it, ribs. Because I always get ribs with my Butcher Box. Anyway, I want to rinse my hands off there, get a little bit more of the Walker's Wood. And again, I really think it's important to avoid cross-contamination with chicken, even healthy chicken like this. So use a bowl when you're reaching in with your chicken hands. But this is the stuff right here. There'll be a link where you can get this stuff if you can't find it at your local grocer. And it may be hard to find the mild at your local grocery, even if they have the hot. And I've talked to a lot of people that seem to appreciate the mild a little bit more. Back when I started using this, they didn't really have a mild. And I think since they came out with the mild, they kind of jacked up the heat. I'll go up into that thigh. So I think that's probably enough, but since we have it, we might as well use it. They jacked up the heat on the on the hot and spicy. So let me rinse my hands here. We'll try to get some editing in here for you here and there so this takes less time. And we'll get that into a vacuum seal bag. And this is probably a bigger bag than I needed, but I need new bags for my machine. So I just cut what I had left in half on the roller, so do that. Now, I don't want to get all this on my wife, so if she sees that, she's gonna be like, oh, I taste it. So we'll get that off there. And then I'm just gonna take the Chef Keith Snow stuff and just coat the outside of the chicken with the dry powder, coat the inside, and just like I did with the Walkers, we'll try to get some up under the skin. This is one of these things where I'm trying to keep my hands cleaner than I normally would. We'll get some up under there. You can get up in here like this, like that. See it push up under the skin like that, and then just kind of pour a little bit in there and get a good coating of this stuff on it. Get a little cleaning here and get the other bag out. We'll get this stuff set up and we'll get it vacuum sealed and we'll get it into the cooker and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, guys, so I got it set up to vacuum seal. This is my Cabela's commercial grade vacuum sealer, 15-inch. This is about the best vac sealer that Cabela's makes, and I think it's about the best vac sealer at the consumer level that you can get. That's why I own it. I do a lot of affiliate stuff on Amazon. I do not have a link to a product on Amazon because I don't know of one good as this. So if you're in the market for this, don't worry about my affiliate stuff. Go out and get one of these because I think this is the only vacuum sealer we've ever bought that we didn't throw away within a year. Anyway, one of the functions it has, and a lot of other vacuum sealers do have, is what's called a pulse vacuum. So what I did first of all is I got the chicken over here, and I got this paper towel, and I cleaned out the inside of the bag where some of the stuff had, chicken spuge and whatever had gotten on there. Water is your enemy with vacuum sealing, and we really don't want this bag coming open inside the sous vide cooker. It won't be a disaster because of the way that we'll set it in there. The top will be above it, but you really want a good tight seal on your bag for marinade and for contact with the temperature of the water. So anything wet in a vacuum seal bag is a bad thing. It will screw the seal up. So you clean that up. And the way I do stuff like this, if I was saving this chicken for cooking in the future, and it's something I'll talk about in just a second that I do, I would put this on like a baking sheet and freeze it solid, uncovered. Then I would put it in the bag, and then I would just run the regular vacuum cycle, and since it's hard, it would get a perfect seal, and you get no kind of wetness up or moisture up in there. But since we're gonna cook this right away, what I'm gonna do is pulse vacuum. And all I'm gonna do is just keep pulsing until I take as much of the air out as possible. As soon as I see any moisture start to come up from the chicken, I'll stop and do a manual seal. It'll take a little while to get all the air out of there. And right there, I start to see moisture coming out from the chicken. And that's plenty tight enough, so I'm gonna hit manual seal, and that's gonna seal up. And I'm gonna do the jerk chicken one the exact same way. So there's no reason to watch that. We'll come back and we'll get them into the sous vide cooker. Now here's the thing. I love to do stuff like this in advance. Get this stuff, label it, date it, etc. Put it in the freezer, and if I decide I want to just grill this as it is, take it out, defrost it, throw it on the grill. Otherwise, I can take it out and defrost it, or I can even take it out frozen and throw it right in the sous vide cooker a month from now, 2 months from now, it doesn't matter. And just adjust the cooking time. If it's frozen, give it about an hour to thaw out, plus whatever amount of time you have for cooking. Since I've never done this before and I'm not sure with a whole chicken, we're gonna go 90 minutes at 165 degrees. It should be nice and moist. There's really no way it can dry out, and we should get a really great end product. But again, I haven't done this before with chicken, and I think it's important that those of us that are on YouTube talking about doing stuff like this, do stuff we haven't done before in front of you, because that actually helps people kind of get away from their own fears and get out and actually try stuff. Because everything that we do that's really awesome, we tried it, we screwed it up, or we tried it, it worked, and then we tweaked it and made it better. So that's what we're doing today together. I'll be back in just a bit. So I've got the Innova running, and we're up to 148 of 165 degrees, and I've got the chicken in there already, so it kind of preheats with it as it comes up to temperature. And again, I've selected a number of 90 minutes for my cook time once we get to 165 degrees. I don't know that that's necessary, but I know with sous vide, you know, unless you do something stupid, go like 3 or 4 hours or something like that, you're not going to start breaking down the tissue itself and make the meat mushy. You're not going to overcook it, what have you. So we know we're going to go to 165, hold that temperature, and then finish on the grill. I want to talk about kind of, you know, if you're going to do sous vide cooking and the vacuum sealer bags. You don't have to have vacuum seal bags. You can use a zip top bag, and kind of the poor man's vacuum sealer with that is take your zip top bag and put your food in it and close it almost all the way. Leave maybe a half of an inch open on the Ziploc. Push some of the air out, but then take the bag and actually submerge the bag underwater and leave only the top of the bag above the water. You can do that in your sink, your cook pot, whatever. If you do it in your cook pot, do it before it gets hot, and then seal the rest of it. And you can do that when you're deep freezing stuff too that you're putting in zip top bags. And that water will push 99% of the air out. It won't be the same as a vacuum seal, but it's certainly good enough for sous vide. Probably long term, I'll take a piece of foam insulation and cut out a special top for this to help it be more efficient. Today all I'm going to do is put a clean beach towel over top of it to help hold the heat in. And we'll get back with you when we get the food out and get it on the grill or under the broiler. Again, I haven't decided yet. Don't know what we're going to do for sides, but I'm probably not going to video that today. Keep this simple. Just give you another technique that can be done with sous vide and how you can make multiple people happy with different flavors on the same cook. Really easy because the food never touches the water. Remember, this is not boiling. This is most accurately a dry poaching. We'll catch up with you in a bit. So we're continuing with our cook. We'll take a peek in here. Everything looks good. No ruptures in the bags, no loss of the vacuum seal. That's all good stuff. You can see that we're holding our temperature perfectly of 165 degrees. And we've got about 36 minutes left in our 90-minute sous vide hot water cook. And so that's great. But what I kind of wanted to talk about is how carefree this is. So I haven't really had to worry about anything. I decided to whip together a side. So I'll throw some still images in here for you. It's all wrapped up in this nice foil pouch. But I went outside, I got some heirloom cherry tomatoes, and I got some Asian long beans. I took one golden potato, I whipped it in the microwave, and let that, you know, threw it in there for a couple minutes to pre-cook it because it'll take longer than the other stuff to cook. And took some mini sweet peppers that were in the refrigerator that really needed to be used up before they went bad. Once I did that, let the I cubed the potato up, let it cool down a bit, and then diced everything up, got it into a foil pouch. And this is one of the ways we stay relatively low carb and still eat a potato now and then. One potato split between two people. We'll probably never finish this side between the two of us tonight. There'll definitely be leftovers. Cut into a lot of pieces, cooked with things like tomatoes, and that way the potato kind of sucks that up and carries that flavor, and that's awesome. And at the same time, you know, we end up with some dehydrated garlic and onion there to suck up that excess tomato juice. So that all kind of marries together, a little salt and pepper, that simple, couple tablespoons of butter on top, wrapped up in a real nice airtight foil pack. We'll throw that on the grill maybe 10 minutes before the chicken goes on to finish, because remember, the chicken is only going to crisp the skin. That's all that's going to happen. But you know, if I wasn't doing a side, I could be doing anything right now. I really don't have to pay attention to the sous vide cooker at all. And if it goes a little longer than I planned, doesn't really matter. It's not going to overcook. Anyway, like I said, never did chicken this way before, but we'll see how it works out. I have a feeling it's going to work out just fine. All right, guys, so we've got the chicken out onto the grill. As you can see, it's a typical thing when you get a sous vide. It's kind of like that, not quite what you're looking for on the outside. I've got this over the center. I've got the side dish that I showed you putting together in the last segment over a higher heat. It's going to obviously take longer to cook. Remember, we're just finishing the chicken, so we want a nice crisp. This is the stuff with the sheep snows, and this is the stuff with the Walker's Wood jerk seasoning. I added a little extra jerk seasoning. I even threw a little of the grilled chicken seasoning on top of the Walker's Wood. I thought that would be good. And a little extra Snow seasoning on there before we threw it on the grill. I've got the center kind of on a medium. I got the next level out a little bit higher, and I've got the end burners cranked, trying to create a minimal amount of heat actually underneath, and then a really high heat keeping it covered to crisp the skin. I'm happy to flip it over, but actually you want to take a little bit of time even with sous vide, and my guess, remember I'm guessing here, doing the best I can, in finishing that skin, because you can overcook chicken skin real fast and it doesn't really crisp, then it gets more like a broken, not so good thing. So we're going to cook a little bit of fat out of the skin, see how it crisps. We'll probably flip it over toward the end and see how it all comes out. Again, this is my best guess. I'm not saying this is how to do this. Giving a shot something new with sous vide, but I can't see why this isn't going to work out wonderfully. Okay, so I gave it about 7 minutes, and the skin's definitely starting to firm up a little bit. So I've now dropped the heat on the center to low, and I'm going to go ahead and give us a flip. Keep Snow's version and Walkerwood Jamaican jerk. God, that looks good. Oh yeah. All right. Side is kind of simmering away in there. I can feel it vibrating. We'll catch up with you in a bit and see how it turns out. All right, guys. So we've tried our first experiment with sous vide chicken. It's still pretty hot, but we're hungry, so I want to get into this and kind of see what things look like. That looks pretty daggone good. I was saying earlier I couldn't remember what knife this was. It's made by a company called Shun, and I'm gonna feed the camera woman here. Well, she won't eat it right now because it's screaming hot, but
no, try it yourself.
Give it just a second. Oh man, yeah, this came out really good. I tore my piece a little bit on the grill, so I've already stuck into the wing a bit, but I can tell you that there's some things I would change, and I'll put that in the write-up as far as what I would change. But
seasoning wise, because you did the seasoning different on both.
The seasoning I wouldn't really change it. How I did the seasoning, this is a jerk, and I would definitely want to get a little more on here and let it sit a little longer, but boy, that's good. The big thing I want to do is get into the thigh, because this was on the grill a very short period of time, and just see how, make sure that's nice and done in the thigh. So I'm not really, like, this is really hotter than it should be, but the thigh meat is just perfectly done as well. So my estimation is sous vide works great. We need to let this cool down. Let's see what the camera woman thinks.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and it's easy. It's fast and it's hands off. I'll have links and additional information in the write-up. Hey guys, Jack Spirko here with a wrap-up. I was going to do this as a write-up, and I figured, got up this morning, come out here. It's really nice out on the deck, and it would be better to give you the additional information in the video as well. As I said yesterday when we were doing this, I had never done it before, and I was looking for a shortcut. And I believe I discovered some pretty cool things to do with chicken when it comes to sous vide, and probably if I'd read a book or something like that, I'd know a lot of the stuff in advance and wouldn't have made the errors that I did. And the errors weren't horrible, but they weren't perfect, and they certainly leave room for improvement. So I wanted to kind of go over with you some of the things that I came up with. Number one, sous vide and vacuum sealing is not a shortcut for marinating for jerk chicken. The jerk chicken tasted really good, and there was some good jerk flavor, specifically on the outside where the coating was. I probably didn't use enough because I was in a hurry and I was trying to do it on my own without getting chicken skank all over my phone and what have you. But the reality is jerk needs to marinate usually overnight, and even if you're doing a sous vide and kind of a vac seal type thing, it would probably be a good idea to go ahead and give that the time to work. The next thing is, well, white meat chicken should cook to about 150 to 155 degrees, and sous vide just doesn't change that. The white meat was not bone dry or anything like that. It wasn't inedible, but it would have been a hell of a lot better if we had separated the chicken into quarters, breast, in one spot, probably even thigh and leg separated, from what I'll tell you in a minute, and wing, and done the white meat, the wing, and the breast meat at 150, maybe 155 degrees. I need to do a little research on that to see, do we take it a little higher or not than we would on the grill, because there's no carryover temperature. And do them in separate batches, or just say, if I'm going to do breast, I'm going to be doing breast today, I'm going to do thigh tomorrow, that type of thing. I've always said this, while you can roast a whole chicken, and with a slow roast you can get away with it, trying to cook breast of chicken and thigh together is like trying to cook something like a London broil steak and a piece of filet mignon together. They just really have different temperatures that they're best at, and different cooking methods that are best for them. So I would separate those. In addition to that, I think that we really didn't get the crisp on the skin that I was looking for, because if you think about half a chicken or even a whole chicken, if we were to spatchcock it, you've got those ripples in it, and you only want to leave it on the grill so long to do that because it's basically cooked. Now, in spite of the fact that I thought 165 was too high for the breasts, the legs and the thighs absolutely were done through. They absolutely hit a temperature of 165 degrees. But because they were all together in a joint, right where you de-joint the chicken with the knife, on the bone itself, in the cartilage, you get some red. That didn't cook through, it didn't cook the blood out of the bone. Now, there is no danger to eating chicken done that way. If the center of your meat, if all your meat's reached 165 degrees, it's good. But chicken's one of those dishes that when you serve it to people, even people that know better, it can be off-putting if they see anything that looks red at all. And I understand why. It doesn't really bother me because I actually get it. But I can understand why. And it even always bothers me when it happens and I'm serving it to somebody. Because I know that's going to bother me if they turn their head and eat it. So if you were to go ahead and part that out, I believe you would get past that and you wouldn't have that. Mainly because you wouldn't be hacking that joint apart and exposing those ends of those bones. Additionally, since you would be using a smaller cut, you would get a better exposure to the heat at those levels. The 90 minutes seemed to be about right. The actuality, though, is that I went almost 2 hours because my wife got home. She didn't want to eat, so I left it run. What I probably should have done is killed it, and that might have done a little bit more for the breast, though it would have probably made the red in the bone a little bit more prominent. So, again, we're back to parting the meat out. So, to sum it all up, marinate your jerk chicken, even if you're going to try this sous vide method overnight. Cook your dark meats and your light meats at different temperatures. They're just better that way. Part it out so that you can get a better skin contact and a quicker sear-off on your grill. I actually think it makes sense to let the meat come out of sous vide and come down temperature to about 100 degrees. Because when we put it on the grill and crisp the skin, we're going to end up bringing that temperature in that meat back up to about 120, which is a great serving temperature. So because things were out of whack and I'd never done it before, we didn't do those things, and I think it would have been better if we did. Let me say a little bit about why we're doing stuff like this, these additional adjuncts. Number one, we want more content for you. Again, David and I can only get together and insult each other and have inappropriate conversations so often. And number two is we really want to convey that you should get out and experiment with things. Most of the time when you see a full episode of Biltong for Breakfast with David and I, and we're out here and we're making something, I've done it 100 or 1,000 times before, and I've got it down and I know what I'm doing. That's why I can do it with a martini in one hand and a beer in the other, and making jokes and just kind of waddling around out here and just having fun. But most of the stuff that I cook like that wasn't always that way. There was some point where I said for the first time, I'm going to try this. And I've been doing that since I was a little kid. I grew up hunting and fishing, and my parents would not, well, my dad worked 24/7, workaholic, and my mom would not touch game. And my grandmother on one side would not touch fish and game that came out of the field. Weird thing, I know, but they wouldn't do it. So I had to learn to cook. And I started playing around with hunter stews and stuff like that and different ways to grill fish when I was like 8, 10 years old. So I've been doing this my whole life, and I'm still learning something new every day. And one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons we're doing this is, I've always been a person that wants America to be, a country full of people that can do shit. And I'll tell you one of the things you damn near need to be able to do, everybody, and that's be able to cook for yourself. And it's actually a lot of fun, and it's a lot better than the crap you buy in most restaurants and most fast food places and stuff like that. So get out and give it a shot. Let us know your thoughts on this. Tell us what else you'd like to see. We'll keep trying to bring you the full episodes, these adjuncts, everything. Probably 3 or 4 pieces of full content a month. That's about what we can get out for you in the beginning anyway. And with that, we'll catch up with you later.